Shabbat shalom to everyone. Now, there's a Hebrew word I want to teach you tonight, and it's the basis of everything I'm going to say. The word is cheshbon. And I tracked it down. I think it's first used, but not in the way that I think it means the way we use it today. It's first found in the book of Ecclesiastes and Kohelet. The word cheshbon means an accounting. In conversational Hebrew, if you're at a restaurant, you say cheshbon b'vakasha, an accounting please, meaning your bill. But for American Jews, there are two accountings that we make. The first accounting is our yearly Jewish accounting. It is called the cheshbon hanefesh, the accounting of the soul. This is what we are called upon to do the month before Rosh Hashanah. It's a yearly inventory of our pluses and our minuses. What have we done right and what have we done wrong? We cannot change according to Jewish tradition unless we have a clear accounting of whom we are. And there are examples of this among the great rabbinic sages, who literally ended the day in the month of Elul with a review of their actions. The Maharil, a 14th century rabbi, taught all the month of Elul, the month before Rosh Hashanah, before eating and sleeping, let every man sit and look into his soul and search his deeds that he may make confession. So really, everything that possibly could happen during the high holidays is predicated on the cheshbon hanefesh. So one of the things you have to do is, to a certain extent, before you come, is to try to go through this process. What did I do right? What did I do wrong? It can be very painful. It's painful for me because I know all the wrongs I've done. Nothing criminal, but there's a lot of things you confront in your life, and you have to just own up to them. Now, what's the other cheshbon? The Hebrew word for it is riyat cheshbon, which is a financial audit. It is our meeting with our accountant, our submission of our income tax, our filling out of these forms is based on trust. It's an honor system to a great extent. Most people, I believe, are honest and want to be good citizens, but there is also tax cheating, hidden income, cash transactions, not so precise deductions or depreciations. Indeed, and I looked this up so I could share it with you clearly, 1 in 6, 16% of American adults say they've cheated on their taxes. And that adds up to roughly 41 million fraudulent returns. Just think about that. 41 million fraudulent returns. Thus, income tax is more than about being a law-abiding citizen. It's about honesty. It's about accountability. Doing what is right, both because the law requires it, but also because our moral core demands it from ourselves. Now, here is how the Torah presents this idea using Moses as an example. As the building of the tabernacle, as the building of the Mishkan is completed, we are presented with a lengthy report meticulously listing every detail of the multifaceted project. At the end of the Torah portion, that is the end of the book of Exodus, that's where we are, it's basically a list of what was used, the amount that was used, the weight of those things that were used. Every particular thing that was used it's so boring. It's beyond boring. But it's there at the very end of the book of Exodus. Now, why is it necessary? Who could be more worthy than Moses? Who could dare suspect irregularities in the conduct of Moses and the people he supervised? Nevertheless, we are taught. I'm quoting from the first verse of this last section of the Torah. It says, "These are the records of the tabernacle of the pact, which were drawn up at Moses' bidding. He wants it. It's not imposed upon him. Moses wants the accounting. Every piece of gold, silver, copper, leather, jewels listed, everything listed in the exact amount and where exactly they were used in the process of this building project. The spotless reputation of the person in charge of the funds or the unlimited trust that he is accorded is not enough. Moses demands the accounting. Now, Moses teaches us that there must be an open public accounting, audits, to stop rumors, innuendos, and questions. It's not sufficient to know that we have done the right thing, that we have carried out our duties with integrity. A person must show transparency and accountability for others to see that. Now, there is a wonderful midrash, there's a wonderful rabbinic interpretation about this whole thing. It's cute and brilliant and provocative at the same time. So according to the midrash, according to the rabbi's interpretation, Moses got the idea of issuing a financial report at this state of his work, not only as a precaution for the future, but as a result of his own personal experience. And we go back to last week's portion, the story of the golden calf. And it says, and it came to pass when Moses went out to the tent, meaning he lived in his own condo. He didn't want to he couldn't deal with the other Israelites. So he went out to the tent, parentheses, his own condo, which was parked separately from the community, and all the people would rise and stand, watching at the entrance of his tent, gazing after Moses until he entered the tent. Why are the people watching him going inside of where he lives? The Midrash asked, why did they stand up to look after Moses? So the Midrash interprets that they were looking with big eyes after him to malign him behind his back. And here were the murmurings. They looked at his back and said to one another, what a neck! What thighs! He eats which is ours, and drinks of that which is ours. And his fellow would reply, fool, a man who is in charge of the tabernacle, talents of silver, talents of gold, uncounted, unweighted, and unnumbered. What else do you expect? That he should not be rich? They're implying that Moses is a crook, and he's eating very well. He's skimming from the top. And Moses heard this, he said, by your lives, as soon as the work of the tabernacle is finished, I shall render them an account. And as soon as it is finished, he said to them, these are the accounts of the tabernacle, the first verse of our Torah portion. As long as Moses was in the midst of the work, he did not pause to fight back his slanderers. People say bad things about you, what are you going to do? He took another path. He felt that the best and only way to fight them was to publish his records. And I think it's not complicated, but when you look at what the Torah says and you look at this midrash, and there are a lot of other traditions associated with this about money and collecting money, and there are all kinds of laws in Judaism that I could share at another time about how someone who does charity collecting in a community, how they can't do it by themselves, they have to do it with two people. I mean, there's all kinds of interesting things. But I think there are three moral lessons that Moses is teaching us. The first is transparency. A person of integrity has nothing to hide. We cannot be afraid to have our actions examined. Obviously, this examination should be done with dignity and respect, but transparency reinforces the moral uprightness of the individual being examined. It is a personal statement, I have nothing to hide. And it doesn't mean they're not going to find out things that are flawed about us. So what? As long as you're not a criminal, you have to live with your flaws. The second is, Avoid doing things that can be misinterpreted. A person of integrity avoids actions which might be permitted but leading to misunderstanding. Now, there's a rabbinic principle called Marit Ayin, which literally means appearance to the eye, which holds that certain actions, though they should be technically permitted by Jewish tradition, are nevertheless forbidden because they appear to violate the law. It's about appearance. In other words, if you're an Orthodox rabbi, you don't go into McDonald's to order a Coke. How come? Because they might think you went in to order a cheeseburger, and you're setting a bad example. So don't go into McDonald's, please. Okay. Or I'll give you another example. I was thinking about this. You don't use your company credit card for personal purposes, even if you're going to pay the company back. It's perhaps legal, but it's not the way to go. The appearance is all wrong, and it will lead people asking questions. Don't do it. And the third, and I really think this is the most important, integrity is the acceptance that we are not saints. That temptation is a reality for all of us. That none of us is beyond corruptibility. None of us are free of envy, greed, jealousy, or desperation. And I'll give you an NRT example, and I think, thank goodness, most of you weren't even around when this happened, but it's important to talk about it. A big thing that happens in a synagogue that's always controversial is the rabbi's discretionary fund. It's not just rabbis, ministers, priests, whatever. They have them. And the goal is people donate money to it, and hopefully at the rabbi's discretion, the rabbi, he or she will do something, will use it for appropriate purposes. And there are all kinds of rules by the Central Conference of American Rabbis, what's appropriate, what isn't. Our synagogue was deeply wounded years ago by the misuse of the discretionary fund by a former rabbi of ours. And it was horrendous. And when I came here, I said, and as you know, I was only supposed to be here for a year, I don't need one. I just don't need one. If it's controversial, I don't need it. But people said, you need a discretionary fund. But the reason I didn't want it was my integrity matters to me more than anything else. Okay, say I'm a bad rabbi, say whatever you want, but don't accuse me of being dishonest. I can't live with that. But the fund was created, and we came up with a solution. I don't touch the funds directly. I don't have the checkbook. I have no access directly to the funds. I'm not a signator on the account. If I want to make a contribution towards something, an officer of the congregation must sign the check, period. That's how it should be. I've created a system that prevents me from being able to do something wrong. I don't think I'd ever steal from the fund. But nevertheless, I need to create a system that makes that temptation impossible to actualize. Accountability, transparency, acceptance that no one, including me, is beyond corruptibility. Now, we have a crisis of integrity in our society. It's hard to trust anyone anymore. To make that statement, you want to cry just to make that statement. It's hard to trust anyone anymore. It is often assumed that people of authority will be dishonest. What a horrible situation we've created for ourselves. We cannot do much about it. But we can demand the highest level of integrity for ourselves. Moses demanded it of himself, and so must we. Shabbat shalom.